The Mike and Tony Show is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
What's up, people? My name is Kendrick Kennedy. I'm owner at 212 Performance Gym. I'm here with Mike and Tony, the Mike and Tony Show. Hey, if you guys haven't checked them out, check them out. Great people, you know, bringing the community together. Love being here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome back, Mike Pierce. It is episode 226. We got some really cool guests in the house today. How was your week? How have you been?
Good. Week was good. Work was good. Everything's good. Today's even better. Is the Duke game.
Of course.
So yeah.
March Madness is like your
My jam.
happy time of the year.
Like I said, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So we have somebody who has been on. How many times have you been on, sir? I don't remember. The famous Staff Sergeant Lacey McDonald.
I think this is number 3.
That can't be.
No,
I
this
think
is like
it's the
4 or
third
5.
time.
This is like 4 or 5, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm missing something. Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
say 4.
Yeah, back in the day, you were at DCIS Ford.
That's right.
Right.
Dang, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has to be 4 right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
And maybe you can introduce us to you brought a colleague
so,
along with you today.
brought a colleague, a partner in crime. This is Raven.
Hi.
We've been working together with Mo Better Greens at Blue Bear Farms. There's a few sites: Blue Bear Farms, Metro Caring, Greenhouse, and
Doing some
Unity
urban
Seed
farming.
Farms. Yep, urban farmers,
nice.
right up in the building.
Heck yeah. So what have you been up to since the last time you've been on? It's been a lot of things.
Oh,
You
man.
see there's changes been around here as
Yeah,
well.
man, it looks freaking great.
Yeah.
This looks great.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's a tiny little studio, but it's good for a podcast because it feels, close.
Just so you know, you're not going to be able to get all this cool Temu stuff anymore. Not at the price that
How dare you?
What team? We have
How dare
thousads
you.
of subscribers. Spend money on Temu.
I saw you at that damn lawn show, the damn garage sale down the street. I saw you there. Nah, man. God, it's been a lot. So, I ran through a cycle with Big Green Dow. I used to be I am one of the founding members of that organization, and it's a decentralized way that we govern that particular group. So like we have a 3-year cycle.
Yeah, why don't you,
of
for
folks that come
listeners who
through.
don't know, why don't you talk us through a little bit about
So Big Green Dow was started with myself, Ade, Vero, Project Sweetie Pie, this is Catherine, and Big Green, which is headed up by Kimbal Musk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was maybe we can get a little. We'll save that. We'll get into that just a little bit later.
Tell us more.
And then Raven, don't you judge me.
I don't.
But pretty much the premise was we were trying to flip philanthropy on its head, right? Which we did. It's frontline leaders that get to distribute funds. And instead of it being, Kimbal and his close friends coming together to create a foundation and then redistribute this wealth, it's more of those frontline leaders giving that power to on the direction on where we want to go as an organization. Who gets those funds, what do we want to do with those folks within the organization, but we do it together. It's more of a round table King Arthur type of deal than it is like a small group of people with centralized power. It's decentralized, so
Nice.
everybody gets a
Beautiful.
vote. It weighs no more or no less than anyone else. If you are a grantor, if you're granted, you become the grantor too. So like when you're absorbed into the organization, like you're a part of this whole thing. And if you have an idea or whatever, like you could present that in a proposal, and then we'll all vote on it together to move in that direction.
Damn, pretty cool. And when did you start with those guys?
That was 3 years ago.
And how exactly did you get connected in the first place?
So this was at Lake. We had that little garden in the back that I was been
yeah.
working on. Yeah, and one of our teachers, Mr. Smith, Stephen Smith,
Yeah.
put in a pitch to Big Green for they had this initiative where they were trying to put like 1 million gardens across the United States. and it was in between them and Denver Urban Gardens, and Denver Urban Gardens didn't want to mess with us because of the situation that we were in at the time, because we were in a segregated school. We were in a shared campus with Strive, and our relationship with them was extremely strained, to say the least.
To say the least.
But they were like, we're not gonna, work in that type of setting. So Big Green was like, yo, we're down to do it. Like, if you're down to run with it. So they hooked us up with a $15,000 grant to install this learning garden out in the back. It's over there by the tennis court.
Yep.
And from there, COVID hit. And when COVID hit, Big Green they did their thing as far as like moving people around and essentials, because stuff was changing. And during that time frame, we have students, their parents are essential workers, like a lot of our students with autism. And it was a scary time. People didn't know, is this the plague? Is this the one? You know what I mean?
Especially
Do
in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody was grabbing toilet paper, which was so weird out of all things. And I was like, bullets and beer and guns, and everybody's
not
grabbing
food,
toilet paper. And I was like, fuck,
right.
I totally forgot.
Yeah.
No. But during that time, I continued to come into Lake to support it. And for our students with autism, like sensory work and just working in the garden like that, that's like they need stability like that.
Yeah.
And we were in such uncertain time. So Big Green, one of their executives came down. Her name is Diana. And, saw me working in there, heard our story about Lake and how we were transforming the community there and doing something new. And that she proposed to me. She was like, do you want to do something that I have no clue about, which is, stuff with cryptocurrency? And I was like, sure. I don't even know what the hell is cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
What are you talking
That's
about?
still where I'm
We're
at.
still
with it.
finding out. Yeah.
So and
We're
she was
still
like,
wanting
well,
to know.
let's figure it out. So I was like, okay, sign me up, and went off and was a pioneer in this whole DAO thing and crypto. So cryptocurrency, I don't know how it happened. It was like overnight. Kimbal created like this crypto opportunity, and people bought in on it. It was like to the point where it's like $7 million was sitting in
Oh wow.
this crypto. And then he was like, man, I really want to do this decentralized method of philanthropy and kind of change things up. So he was reaching out to, folks that he knew of throughout the food justice, food sovereignty landscape across the country. Like Wande, man, she's a beast, dude. Like she is
Wanda James.
amazing. I don't know what Wande's last name is. I don't know what her last name is.
Who owns the dispensary?
But she's from Atlanta.
Oh.
She's got a daycare there, a early learning center there, and I mean, she fought her city to. It was easier to put a liquor store on the corner than it was to put a food market little setup.
Yeah.
And she fought her city and county, and they transformed it to where like she can do that now, and to grow food in there and to sell it. It was such a revolutionary way of doing things in her community, and then it just went on from there for her. She's a beast, and God, I can't believe I'm having a brain fart on Wande's company. Here, I'm gonna look it up real quick. Either way, while I'm looking it up, that's how I was picked to be a part of this journey, man. And I just me, my white Honda Pilot, shoveling some seeds. You know what I mean? And, I'm dedicated. Like I'm willing to go the mile.
Yeah.
And Diana saw that and was like, "Yo, you should be a part of this journey." And I was like, "Cool." And then when I got to the table with all these, all these national like beasts, like they are like the superheroes of food sovereignty. I got to sit down at the table with these folks. And in the beginning, I did not feel worthy of sitting at that table, man. Even though the work, it was like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. But I was worthy, and I am worthy.
Yeah, of course, you're
And,
brother. It's cool for me to hear this story because, as the listeners know, you've been on a few times, and you are one of the most, in my opinion, inspirational people I've ever met. You're literally the reason I went into education. I went into teaching. It was right here on this podcast. We were talking to him. I was
cool.
doing music full time at the time, and I remember he actually had to use the restroom during the podcast, but we kept rolling, so he went up and used the restroom. And I sat there and I told Mike, I was like, dude, I feel like I'm not doing anything worthwhile right now. Like
Right.
everything I'm doing is self-serving, and, even if it's at the level of for my family or whatever. And I just decided, because a long time ago I wanted to be a teacher, but I had dropped out of college. I was in college for 8 years with no bachelor's degree.
It's a long time.
It's a really
It's a
long
long
time.
time.
Yeah, with a couple of gaps in there or whatever, but just goofing around. But then he made me make the decision to go back and finish my bachelor's and get a teaching license and keep going and start teaching. And it was through him that I was connected to Lake Middle School, where I started. And it's been
God, I feel so responsible for you though.
you always say that. Yeah.
And when you had the little health scare stuff, I felt
Oh, sure.
responsible for that. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, I got to protect this man.
Yeah, I remember. So I had I hit my head on the trunk of a car one time and
Been there.
You've been there. Yeah, we've all done it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened. I thought it was no big deal. I got a little bump, didn't think it was anything. But it turned out I was bleeding under my skull for like 3 weeks.
Shit.
So I ended up in the emergency room, and then I had to have brain surgery. They had to like basically open everything up and get the blood out and stuff. And so it was this long recovery. I recovered, came back to work. This is probably a year and a half later or something like that. And then I hit my head on the trunk of my car at work. And I mentioned it. And before I knew it, that, everybody's freaking out. They pulled me out, got a sub in my classroom, took me immediately to the emergency room. And I'm not going to lie, I was terrified, but we went, everything was fine. So they
Good,
did like a
thank God.
scan and everything. But that's what I mean is that that's the type of dude. I'm like in his truck, just like suddenly going to the ER, and it's your passion for everybody around you, like your positivity, your hard work. I don't know. I think your grit, man, more than anything stands out to me. Like no matter what tough times. And I think that you were, you were made in the fire, bro. Like your life growing up, serving in the military, and the things that you've seen and been through, and that you come out on the other side, and it's rare to see without a smile. And so seeing this success for you, and like you rising to the level that you've belonged at for a long time, in fact, even higher is where you're headed. It's an honor to know you, and I'm glad that you came back on the show. But I love you, man. I love you, brother.
I love you
like,
too, G.
You are an amazing person, and I think I've never heard anybody say anything different about you.
And the humbleness is
Appreciate
how
that.
you know that you have character.
Yes.
Because if you
Yes.
felt other ways, it would be questionable.
No doubt. Thanks.
Yeah.
He rips his shirt open, got like a
Yeah,
superhero
exactly.
symbol right here. I know what I am.
Then we'd be getting a little dangerous,
Yeah. Well, Hand, Heart, Soul Project out in Atlanta. That is Wanda's organization, and they do great work, man. Great work.
Yeah.
Even Project Sweetie Pie up in Milwaukee, I want to say, where George Floyd. Where did he? That's
Where was George
Isn't
Floyd
that-
thing at?
I want to say. Wow, I'm having
Damn.
old man issues
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
which is fine.
which is fine.
It's natural. It's
I
only
understand.
natural.
I understand.
But like all these type of heroes.
That was in
created
Minneapolis.
this thing.
Yeah, okay,
Minneapolis.
yeah,
There you
that
go.
sounds
Yep. Yeah, where Target is. Screwed us over.
Yeah.
But man, it's been such a journey with that, and then now like I'm a part of even though I may not be, in the steering committee, we're still out here doing work. It was so hard for me to convince Miss Beverly to be a part of the Dow because it was so new, and like there was no requirements that came with the grant at the time. It was
Sure.
like we wanted to change philanthropy, because with philanthropy or any grant that you receive, you have to do reporting.
You have to prove what you're doing.
Like
with
that
the money.
workload,
Yep.
it strains the nonprofits, man. Like I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's why I have half of the gray hairs that I have now,
Yeah.
is to keep up with all of that reporting work that comes into getting your grant.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
wanted to kind of like relieve some of that and not put such a burden on the nonprofits that get involved.
So there's less requirement of like evidence of proof of what
the,
you're doing.
the proof
or-
and the evidence was from your community.
Yeah.
Like your
Sure.
community is vouching for you. So like everybody who became a part of the Dow would usually were vetted by the other nonprofits that are doing that same work.
Okay.
So like when I was searching throughout the the U.S. because I went to different cities from Minneapolis to out to Cali, down in Texas, wherever I would visit over the past 3 years. My whole intent was to like talk about the Dow and look at folks that are doing the work in those communities and try to recruit them.
Yeah.
Perfect example. I went to Memphis. First off, I was scared.
Oh my God.
One of our leaders, the civil rights leader was murdered in that city, right? Was assassinated in that city. And I stayed in a hotel right across from where you could see his balcony from where I was at. It's over at the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. And while I was there, I was looking up folks in the nonprofit world that were in food justice, food sovereignty in northern Memphis. And northern Memphis is like a food desert. It's a food desert. It's, low income,
Best rap music in the
basically
United
and
States.
barbecue. and the blues. But I ran across Black Seeds Urban Farm there with it's a beautiful family, Doravia and her husband Rich, who was a firefighter, and he was like double timing it. They would focus on like doing this community work and growing food, and then he would be doing his firefighting job at the same time while Doravia was pulling in resources and stuff for the work that they were doing. So I pulled up on their pad, not in a chopper, but in a little electric scooter.
Yeah.
And my cowboy hat. And like if you listen to Rich and Doravia tell the story, like I might as well have pulled up like the Terminator on one of those choppers or something. So I walk up into their space, and I was blown away by the work that they were able to do with they had an empty lot right next to a church, and they turned it into a freaking sanctuary of food and literacy, like food literacy and learning. So it's not just like they're fishing for folks, like they're teaching folks how to fish, and the value of that. And while I was there was a family that came in and they were desperate for food. Like moms couldn't make the ends meet to get groceries in the house, and they hooked her up. She left with a full basket, a week's worth of food, fresh, nutritious food. And then I presented them with the whole Dow thing. Like, I want you to be a part of this Dow. Like, there ain't going to be no strings attached other than, like, you're already doing the work.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the philosophy that we had was, like, let's get these folks the money and get the hell out of the way to let them do what they do. And since then, man, they've become, like, they're killing it in Memphis, man. Now it's more of a focus on land acquisition. To get that land, to own the land, and then cultivate it. Because a lot of us that are in this work, we don't own these spaces that we grow food.
That's the object of farming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like whoever controls that controls everything, And recently, Miss Bev had told me to do some homework. There's a documentary, I think it's on Hulu, that talks about like this land grab that's happening like across everywhere. Whether it be privatized corporations that are coming in to swoop up off this land, because you control the land, you control the destiny.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And the resources, the water.
Exactly. So mineral rights, like
The
you name it,
minerals.
right? So it's been one of my objectives of being a part of the Dow to create a pathway for nonprofits to own their own land.
Yeah.
And that's the next level, the next stage. My new challenge is like equipping folks with this tool to make it easier to own their land.
I love that, dude. Damn. So that's what's coming next. That's the next part.
That is what's coming
next
man.
chapter.
Besides, my own little podcast, because you guys inspired me. And then, man, land ownership. And then, of course, always out here doing projects. Collaboration is extremely key to what we're doing, especially now. I think back to the Black Panthers and their food program and their a lot of the programming that the Black Panthers did, and they didn't have the type of support that's out here now that can make stuff happen.
Right.
So it's like, how do we motivate folks within our community to like invest in that? Because we're scattered, like we're scattered everywhere. 5 Points is not the Black Harlem, of
That
the
it used to be.
1940s. You know what I mean? It did. It used to be, but now it's gentrified.
Right.
We're
Everywhere.
scattered to the wind.
It's happening everywhere. I'm curious about your story, Raven. How did you guys start working together, and like, what's your background?
So this is my second season farming for Bev. I just moved back to Denver. I'm from Denver, but I spent the past 6+ years living in Northern California.
What part?
In Humboldt, homesteading.
That's where I was at for 8 years.
No way.
Humboldt State University. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What a small world.
Cool.
That's a small place.
So I was in Bridgeville.
Okay. I'm actually not familiar
for
with.
fucking 5 years. Yeah. It's like 2.5, 3 hours out of Arcata in the mountains, up in the hills. Yeah.
Probably
I was up
beautiful.
in the hills. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. What a small world. I
that's
so
cool.
rarely come across somebody.
It's random in people in Denver. There's a connection. There's a Humboldt Denver connection.
I remember when I was in Humboldt, people always told me, you need to go to Boulder. It's the Humboldt of Colorado.
No, it is not.
No, it is not.
There's no Humboldt of anywhere else.
I played this open mic, and I remember I walked in, and it was like a $9 chai. And this was a long time ago.
In Boulder.
Yes, and I was like,
exactly.
this is not Humboldt, bro.
No, I'm from here. There's not a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
That is
No,
funny.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically I would call what I was doing homesteading, minus the colonization and living off grid for 5+ years.
Oh my God. That's like a dream that's always been in my head.
For
that I've
real,
never-
man. That's
never
my
done
that's
or
my
done.
exit strategy.
Yeah, let's go.
Style.
Well, I'll tell you, I have already told this guy when shit hits the fan, when it hits, I'm going straight to you, bro.
So that's what I was preparing for because that's how I've always
Yes.
felt. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So I was like,
Okay, these are.
You know.
Make sure I get you both your phone numbers. Make sure I got everything.
yeah,
unlocked
yeah.
over
No,
here.
I was like, I grew up in Denver and I've always been somebody with the like long vision about, society is not sustainable. This machine is not sustainable.
Sure.
And I always wanted to learn how to grow food. And I always wanted to I grew up very somewhat, I'll say fragile. And so I wanted to build resilience in myself. I was tired of feeling
What an insight.
I wanted to feel durable and prepared for life.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go live without fucking electricity and
I respect that.
yeah.
Yeah. What an insight to see that and be like,
How
I'm
many
too soft. I need to.
How many of us would
Exactly.
die
That's what I was like. I'm
with
so
no
soft.
electricity?
I was
you know what I
I'm
mean?
so soft. I'm never gonna make it when anything goes down at all. And I don't want to be somebody who's I want to be somebody who can help other people, not just be in the wind.
Wow.
So
Yeah, this sounds like the kind of person that rolls with Lacey.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah.
For real. Yo, how many of us would die off with no electricity?
Oh my
within the
God.
first
Well, you know
12
what my
hours?
belief is?
Yeah.
My belief is we don't give ourselves enough credit because there's this whole idea that we're not going to make it if
Yeah,
the grocery
it's
store's
already
closed.
here.
We're not going to make it
Yeah.
without electricity.
Yeah.
We made it the whole way
Yeah.
to this point, without those things, and it's actually fairly easy. It's just convenience, but convenience is not a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
Tell that to a 16-year-old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's how I felt. I felt feeble. I felt like if I can't walk to the grocery store and I can't take a lift, what am I going to do in life,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we joked around that before on the podcast, saying if zombie apocalypse happened or something, nuke happened, what would really suck, yeah, we can probably, there's enough people in the world to, build back up and do all these things. But when it comes to people that are need prescription medicines,
Yeah.
Things like that.
contacts, glasses, this world is going to be for the perfect sighted. if a zombie apocalypse
That's
ever
right.
happened, where you just keep those glasses
The one-eyed man.
forever, right? And people are just looting you for prescription glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. You're right, Raven. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit, and
Yeah.
I think it's also that imposter syndrome that we have, especially when we are so fortunate, and I think that my experiences being overseas in Afghanistan kind of gave me that reality, man.
Yeah.
There was, a good couple years there that I wasn't, I didn't shit on a porcelain,
Yeah.
Right.
stool, or I didn't have fresh water. I didn't have, I remember my uniform could basically stand up and walk away. And
Yeah.
when I had I had fleas from the dogs that would come into our camps and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I remember looking at this little nasty chicken, being like, "Man, like I want to tear that thing up." I was so hungry. I was hungry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the MREs only go so far.
Yeah.
And you know, you have to space that shit out. And like going without, and then like, of course, you know, I'm on that thin red line. Gave me a true perspective on one, how fortunate and spoiled we are here in this country.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
And that we can make it, dude. Like if
going without shows you
lights
what you
go out.
really need, which is not that many things.
No.
It's not that many things. You need food and water,
And a
space,
nice little shit.
sunlight,
some relationships.
relationships. Yeah.
definitely.
Yep.
That's so
Very
interesting.
basic
There
needs.
is this illusion that we just need so many things because we have so many things.
Yeah.
Well, but then that's also because it was by design.
We've been conditioned to
yeah,
feel
we
that
were
way.
conditioned to
Yeah.
feel that way, man. Like even look how, speaking of conditioning, like for black men or boys to go into higher learning, like it's extremely low. You know, they have I want to say that the idea of success for a black male student compared to a black female is totally different. Like the values there are different. Like there's no confidence in a lot of our young men to go into higher learning, which is kind of scary. And they were conditioned to feel that way.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of conditioning going on in general. I feel like.
And there's good conditioning because black girls, black females are like the highest.
You know, I talk about this with my little brothers all the time, is that women have such a more, in some ways, positive conditioning. I see with women that there's in some ways, well, and of course this is coming from, it's my opinion, but there's a expectation. The way the expectations are for women, I think, can sometimes help support you in things like pursuing education, pursuing self-discovery, pursuing emotional intelligence, you know, because it's really expected of you and ground into you, you know. And I don't think that's offered. I don't think that's offered to young men the same way, you know.
I think you know, recently there's been such a big push on like what defining masculinity. You know what I mean? Because you keep on hearing like toxic masculinity traits, toxic this. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, let's see what is good masculinity. You know, what is masculinity?
Right.
You know what I mean? What does that look like? I know growing up for myself, again, anecdotally, like I thought it was like the rims. You know how it was back in the Aurora Hills, is the rims, girls, how good you performed on, you know, on basketball or whatever, like any way to make a quick buck and how many, you know, girls liked you, whatever.
Yep.
Like was what I thought what a man should be. Like it's the 80s, you know, Hollywood persona of
The
what a man was.
machismo.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if something horrible fucking happens to you, you don't face it. You fucking box it up and throw it in a closet and, you know, no emotion.
Keep it moving.
And
Yeah.
if you are
Because this
sad,
this is what's representing you.
yeah. And if
this-
you are
this-
sad or depressed, you mask it with anger.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, everything becomes anger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Everything.
I think that's again exactly what happened with us at Aurora Hills. You know, I can name a few people that went into like, you know, that gangster mode. You know, became, you know, part of gangs and everything because of that.
Yeah.
And what you see,
Like Aubrey.
you know, we were talking about
Exactly. Yeah.
we were talking about this yesterday. Me and my little brother is like, yeah, you see people go that way. You see people join the military, and both are, I think, attempting to emulate parts of masculinity that are natural and good. And I think farming taught me a lot about getting out of kind of the human perspective and seeing the way that animals operate. And there's masculinity in animals that is healthy and functional because it's not conditioned by human behavior, right? And they are protective. They do have the ability to push through things. They are defensive. They can temporarily put emotions aside. There's different elements that are natural that are really functional, you know?
Yeah. And I think the other part too that plays a lot into it is like, you know, again, growing up and in the area that we grew up in, and you know, I also was with you in Montbello too. But you know, that part where it's like, you know, you're like, if somebody was ever to be like, I think I want to be a teacher. You know, it's like, this motherfucker want to be a teacher. This motherfucker want to be a teacher over here. Look at him trying to change the world over here. Yeah, the pussy. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. You know, because like, you know how Lacey said it exactly. You know, at that time it was like, you know, money. I'm going to get that bread. I'm going to show everybody that I can hustle, that I can do for myself.
Yep.
Little did we know that doing for ourselves also meant, educating and helping educate others.
Yeah, man. Like,
and we don't realize that until obviously you get fucking older because we're in the system. And
if we're
just
fortunate to
trying
live that long, if we make it.
But I did look at your statistics, so you are absolutely 1,000% right. Black individuals comprise of 7% of post-secondary faculty.
Damn.
With
7%?
with black men being 3% of that 7%, and then women being 4%.
Damn. Damn.
Yeah, post-secondary. So that's your college level.
See?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's interesting. I just how do we solve that?
That's what
And
I'm thinking.
I think we have to do how it was done to us this whole time. Like these narratives that were written of people of color, whether they be dangerous or drug users or not good fathers or not, if you're a woman of color, you're too aggressive. You know what I mean? Like we have to change that narrative, and the only way that I think that we can do that is in the way that we tell our stories, and that those stories be seen. You know what I mean? Like this whole push now for DEI to be cut out of every federal government thing, which is kind of like that blew me away when they were like, the Tuskegee Airmen is now this controversial thing that young airmen have to learn about. What the fuck? Like why? What is that doing? You know what I mean? What are we trying to? They're trying to like shift this whole thing where like it's going to be white men that are the fighters. It's white men that are the leaders. And that's just not the narrative, man. Like I'm still to this day discovering people of color that are in industries like all across the spectrum. You know what I mean? From either the inventor of the super soaker to, the cotton gin or Edison. Edison got some of his patents from a black inventor that was, purposely hidden.
Yeah, that stuff's all swept under the rug.
Yeah, like Hidden Figures with the black ladies in NASA. And now here we are. There's this national push now to try to like, let's put this behind the scenes
because they're trying to cause division. I mean, trying to piss half of us off and reward half of us because it's a perpetual division machine.
Yeah.
A colorful, diverse society is an easy one to turn against each other and to separate.
It's like
and
the
to isolate.
unfortunate weakness of it.
So what do you think the solution is? I'm real solution orientated. How do we counter that particular narrative that's being pushed out?
Like you were saying earlier, decentralizing the way that we share information, and because a centralized source of information is always going to be bullshitting, and it's always going to have
power corrupts kind of.
It's always going to be corrupt. It's always going to be a tool of propaganda, because when you're trying to maintain control over huge amounts of population, that's what you have to do. So to decentralize ourselves and to really have direct one-on-one communication is, I think, the way that we get around kind of all these weird made-up barriers,
That's interesting. I listened to a little bit of a rebuke from President Obama recently where he talked about, I think people need to realize as citizens, like, you're the power.
Literally.
Yeah.
And when you're convinced or compelled to whether vote a certain way, do a certain thing, like, ultimately at the end of the day, it is up to us to make this thing right. It is not solely put on some, mythical figure or something of that nature. Like you do any research on any of our leaders, they had hundreds and thousands of people that were behind them, that
it's supposed to go
vision.
bottom up.
Yeah.
It's supposed to go from your family structure to your community structure to your larger community structure, It's the way I think that's the best part about the way government was conceptualized in this country.
Well, I think since we have this mic in our face right now, it'd be really good if you're here in Denver, come and participate with us over at Mo Better Green and with Outer Haven.
Well, that's
Raven
what I
and
was going to
myself.
say. Is I think that's part of the solution too. It's that groups that are doing things like that, just gaining momentum, getting the word out, more people finding out, more people getting on, like an awakening. I think that's what we need.
It's an awakening from one-on-one, from real relationships, from real interpersonal network building, and doing real practical physical things like growing your own food and seeing where that comes from. You know.
So I invite you all to. We have 6 summer community dinners that we're putting on. They're free. We're going to be featuring chefs. We're going to be featuring student DJs.
And our food that we grow.
And our food that we grow.
Yeah.
So everything that we're
Let's
growing, we're going to
go.
be eating, and it's going to be given to community. And maybe we can do a Mike and Tony show at one of these events.
We should.
Which would be cool.
Oh my God.
We
be
have the
down,
convention center. We have is one of the sites that we're going to
nice.
have these dinners
Yeah.
at. And then we also have a site in 5 Points that we also
And it's
conduct
on
these dinners.
Humboldt.
Yep, it is.
It's on 36 and
It's so
Humboldt.
proper.
It is meant to be.
And I moved back from Highway 36 in Humboldt.
Really?
Yeah.
What's going on?
So I want to put that out there. I'll definitely send you guys the dates and stuff if
Yeah,
people
send
want to
that.
join us. And I mean, like, our students have been a part of that for last year. We did it as well, having students spin and stuff, trying to
I love
create
the
career
student
pathways
DJs.
Yeah,
and
they're
whatnot.
awesome.
So hey, Slickback, one of our former students at Lake Middle School, is competing to be like one of the dopest DJs.
Not surprised.
And April 17th at the Black Box, he's going to be spinning. He's in the top 3 category of the DJs that are competing for this $3,000 little contest that
So,
is
yeah.
going on.
I love his style.
And I
too,
mean,
in
it's like,
general.
and he competed against like 100 plus
yeah.
competitor DJs
Yeah.
and whittled down to the last 3. You got a 15-year-old in there. So that's pretty fresh.
Yeah.
Shout out to DJ Slickback.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love his old school vibe and style. There's
Yeah,
something
man.
this kid that's where his name comes from. I've never heard him called that, but it's so funny. I know exactly who you're talking about as soon as you said it. It's like he reminds me of like I don't know, like growing up in California, like the old school vatos. and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
That
he
was
does.
right.
Yeah, he carries himself that
He's
way.
got the oldie vibe.
But he's got some great mentors though. So like DJ
Yes.
Ness, DJ Chones, Ace, DJ Specs, man.
Yeah,
like
that's-
everybody over there at the Denver
We should
DJ
get all
school.
them on here, by the way, Pierce.
For
We've
real.
had Jones has been on, but I haven't
Yeah.
had anybody else.
Yeah,
We
you
could
got to get Ness, Specs, and Ace, man, out here, especially with like I feel they are like pioneers when it comes to education.
I feel like Jones started this whole thing. It's like this mixed world of like DJs and education. now.
It's
Yeah.
the birth of the idea of them blending in and coming into the school system was Reyes, Mr. Reyes, and Jones,
Yes.
man.
He's never been on either, by the way.
Man, we got to get
The great
Reyes
Dino
on here,
Reyes.
man.
We've got to have him on
Because
here.
DJs are such community
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a community gathering. You
I
know?
know, man.
absolutely.
They're great
Community
organizers.
center.
That was
Yeah,
the
it
one
is.
that Chone says that me and him are alike. That we like the old school stuff. And on the
yeah.
nights that he's like, yeah, Dino's the same way as you. He liked
Yeah.
my Saturday nights versus my Sunday nights.
But he likes Sunday because he could do whatever he
yeah,
wanted.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So like, shout out to all them educators out there, man. I love, my heart definitely goes out to Lake always, man. Like whatever
You've got
I
an
can do
acre
to
over
uplift
there
them.
you're going to farm this year, right?
Yes, it is an
That's
acre.
exciting.
You know, obviously it's a very contentious acre because it's DPS owns it, and I have to abide by the rules. If I could, I would turn that whole thing into like a massive food producing spot. Like any kid comes into that spot, they can walk on the campus and feed themselves.
Right.
And same thing with the community. Like the community can come, and this is
Yeah.
something that's been happening. Like folks from Colfax, we sit right off of Colfax, and we would routinely have folks, you know, our houseless community come in and take food from the garden, man, and that's what's
how it's supposed
expected.
to function,
You
yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there is no
Yep.
price on that. Like that is food, nutritious foods that we're growing. I'm not doing it to try to put money in my pocket. I'm doing it to try to help our community out.
That's what we need.
Even if you were trying to put money in your pocket, you wouldn't be able to.
No, yeah, exactly. I don't make enough. I don't grow enough first off.
An acre's not going to do that. Yeah, an acre's not going to do that.
But I mean, again, like, what are we really valuing? You know what I mean?
That's
like,
the key.
food is extremely valuable.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the knowledge of growing food, especially in the areas that we live in. You know, and we're not foraging for food like we used to, but where do you go when those grocery stores shut down and there ain't no convenience to 7-Eleven on the corner with that nasty ass food? Like, where do you go for nutritious stuff? How do you forage? Like, what if you were in the woods? Like, do you know what the plants that you would look for
I do.
to
Yeah.
eat? 'Cause I know you do.
Yeah,
Kelly.
This is what I want to learn.
This is what I wanted to learn too.
I do a lot of camping and fishing and stuff like that. I mean, fish obviously would be a thing for me, but I don't. Other than that, I don't really. I have no idea.
My ass be eating bugs and pine cones probably.
But that works.
Pick
Yeah.
the wrong.
It would work.
bug.
It would work. You lose a hell of a lot of weight.
I wouldn't be pulling no 1,200 pound club as a homesteader.
So if you were up here in the Rocky Mountains, you have kind of an idea of like.
Well, you know what? It's like I was living in California for all those years, so it's like
Sure.
I know more of those plants. But
Yeah.
you know, the plants throughout kind of the states are pretty much the
Similar,
same.
yeah.
They're just different land races, and it would be easy to learn.
Land races, you said?
Land races are like the distinct like phenotype, basically the expression of the plant. So there can be like a plant like plantain.
So they're essentially the same species?
It's the same species. It's the same plant. It just looks
It's just-
physically different
sure.
based
It's
on where
adjusted
it
on the
manifests.
environment.
Basically,
Yeah,
yeah.
makes sense.
Colder, drier climate, higher
Yeah.
elevation, dictates how
Might be
that
a
plant's
longer
gonna look.
leaf or a shorter animal or whatever. You know, more fur or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm so jealous. I want to learn that stuff really bad.
You
you
can.
can.
It,
It's
you can.
super-
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can.
It's our natural inclination. I mean, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Food's become such a different thing in modern society for here in the West, you know, in the United
Totally.
States. Like, it's just this, I don't even know what it is. It's akin to me to like social media or video games or something. It's just this thing we take in for dopamine.
It's kind of a
hits now.
superfluous, like, yeah,
is
it's a
dopamine-like.
commercial.
You're
It's
right.
been completely commercialized.
commercialized.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, commodified. It's a commodity.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's extremely important for us to be a part of our food system, man. Like,
Yeah.
we as a society, it was like we were integrated, like damn near. Yeah, we had livestock that was on your property. You were growing food to take care of your household and to help take care of community.
Yeah.
Like, how much different would our world look if we were to really integrate our food system into how we live?
Well, I mean, what we don't realize is like the whole process of like attaining and cultivating and managing our food. All of those processes are the processes that keep us healthy, not just the actual food, but the being in community,
doing of the work
the
and everything
learning,
like that, yeah.
the using your
learning,
hands.
Well, I can tell you, like, in times when I've cooked more and gotten more in touch with my food,
You
as
do
opposed
better, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel better. The whole process is like, it's kind of joyous. It's joyful. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It is, man.
To like take vegetables and like put them together and combine
It's
ingredients.
creative, like
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's just so lost with McDonald's on every corner.
right. And our work
Taki
life
battles.
our work life separation, the fact that you're working all day to buy food. The hardest part about homesteading was that it took all my life energy and it took my whole day to collect firewood, split firewood, make a fire, cook my food. And then I still had to have a job to make land payments.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that was the hardest part.
Well, there's been some studies on groups of people that live like that, where I mean, they're just self-sufficient, but they're working all day. You know what I mean?
You work all day.
Everything, it's
Yeah.
all
There's
day.
something to
But
do,
they've
yeah.
like the psychology of those people and the health of those people is so much higher
Yeah.
than the way we're living life.
Well, yeah, because it's easy to put ourselves into boxes, man.
I just
in
read a
this
study that it
environment.
reverses cognitive aging to go without your phone for like 2 weeks by like 40 fucking years. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's even like to that. We've had that fun fact before too. Like, you know, people who rely on like maps all the time. You know, they
right, your brain just will let it go.
Yeah, you are just like relying on that instead of like figuring out yourself. You know, like, and whenever I go somewhere, like I don't use the maps. You know, I'm just like, okay, I know where this is at. I'm just gonna go this way. You know, whereas people like to turn on the maps and to find the quickest way to get there.
Quickest
And
way.
the brain is they like what they say is it's a use it or lose it tool, like muscle.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Atrophies.
if it doesn't think it needs to hold on to something, it just doesn't.
gonna let
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Because you're not using it.
Well, that's
Man.
like a lot of people too that like, you know, play games, you know, not just necessarily like there's also things, like video games and stuff like that. People are actively doing that, are continually learning things, and their brain is still functioning and stuff like that too. But yeah, like regular games too, word games, all those kind of
different
things.
Yeah, memory
Synapses.
puzzles.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Dang.
Yeah, after the brain surgery, remember they had me doing all kinds of word puzzles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was really frightening. And when I was in the hospital, they had me do this thing where I had to be up and walking, and then they would have me spell words backwards.
That's your walking.
That's difficult,
And
actually.
I couldn't. Even the
Yeah.
simplest words, I couldn't. It was like super alarming for me as a teacher.
like,
I was
dude,
like, oh my
and you're
god.
like,
Yeah. So I had to do all kinds of things
Damn.
like that. Everything from crossword puzzles to like different types of word puzzles. And
Well, that's what happened with one of our past guests, Dean Wilson.
oh, that's right.
Dean got in a terrible. He was on a scooter downtown, and he was hit and run by a drunk driver. Never found the driver or anything like that.
Yeah.
Dean nearly died. His brain, everything like that, and they didn't think that he'd have like the same functions that he did before the accident. He calls it the Great Collision. And he had a Rubik's Cube, and he just kept on fucking playing with the Rubik's Cube, and like amazed all the doctors because his cognitive functions were back.
Got it back.
He was doing everything like they were just saying like he was just like on different levels because of this Rubik's Cube.
wow.
And so then he has like he got a tattoo with shows a baby fetus like skeleton holding a Rubik's Cube,
kinda
like
heady.
curled up.
Holding Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, because that was his rebirth. He said,
Yeah,
that's
totally. Crazy.
Came back to everything. And
That's
say,
That's
wow.
funny because they say the cube is a symbol of, it's a Saturnian symbol of society and rebuilding and foundation, and it's a
Really?
Masonic symbol. Yeah, the cube. Mhm.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Of rebuilding society. And
Of
rebuilding?
of structure. Like 4 is like the number of structure. The cube is like
sure.
the symbol of Saturn, and it's like
Yeah.
you
We should address something right now.
Oh God,
Uh-oh.
yeah,
Uh-oh.
we should, Pierce.
Here we go.
Okay, so this is for our listeners. We got a few comments, and we got. So we talked on the podcast about. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's like stuff all over the place about the pyramids that they did.
Oh
these-
yeah.
I have
seen
The
that.
pillars.
Yeah, these guys probably didn't fall for it at all. But they did these scans underneath, which that was legit. It was a legit study. They went a little off the rails in their conclusion from their study. And then out of nowhere, somebody generated this image that's all over social media. It's going all over the place of this like structure underneath the pyramid that's like 2 kilometers deep. And it's like these
columns.
I did see
columns.
it.
I saw
Yeah.
that.
You've seen this. It's
Structures
all
on
over the
bottom.
place.
Yeah.
It is
So
all over the place.
so I had been seeing it everywhere. Even a news program that I listened to had talked about it. And so you just, when that many people are talking about it, sometimes you make this very human mistake. I'm arguing for myself here.
We're not doctors.
We are not doctors, which we say all the time. This is not like a scientific podcast. We don't cite studies on this show. We're just 2 regular dudes just shooting the shit. But it's totally fake. I found out the hard way. I was at work talking to some friends in a math meeting, actually, some very intelligent people that I trust. And we were having a conversation about the connection between sound and mathematics. And like, I was learning really cool things from Mr. Schwartzman, who's a freaking math genius, about how, there's like a certain number of, like it's double is an octave. I never knew that because I always assumed it's 8 notes in an octave. So I didn't know that the hertz was actually double for every octave you go. So we're having this great conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, man, this kind of reminds me of the whole pyramid thing, because they were tapping into the vibrations of the earth. They all laughed, but I stopped for a second. I was like, they're laughing too hard. And immediately I'm thinking about the comments that I saw. And I was like, wait, is that, you know what I'm talking about, right? You guys know who Graham Hancock is? And I said that,
like, yeah.
and the guy, and Chase, he immediately is like, yeah, that dude's a charlatan. And I was
Damn
like,
it!
and
I hate that.
you hate that?
Getting had by a charlatan.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I mean-
Hey,
So-
I got had by Columbus, so think about that.
Well, you were talking about like music and everything like that. Like we found a quote that was talking about we use art to decorate space. Okay. Around.
Okay.
We use music to decorate time.
That makes sense.
That's cool.
That's really
Yeah.
that's deep.
I like
That's
that.
deep.
I thought about that for a while. I was
Yeah.
like, "Whoa!" Like my brain just went like when I read that, I was like, "That's for real."
It is real.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
No, but to say it officially, we were totally wrong.
So
It's
just the
not true.
pictures were fake, the info was fake.
It was what happened. So the study was legit, the sonar. But if you see the actual scans that they did,
Yeah.
the leap they made from those to these structures
2
was
kilometers down.
insane. It's not even close. We don't know. You really can't tell what you're looking at.
Right.
And so that was wrong. None of that shit's true. There's a ton of people like me. When I was sitting with Chase, he's going on TikTok. And he's like, "Let me send you this video that I saw that actually explains it really well." And it took him so long to find it because it was buried under hundreds
those
and
other
hundreds
stuff.
of bullshit
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem, you know.
You know, whenever I hear about like, aliens came and like gave us this knowledge, ancient man, and I'm like, man, like, we were some pretty awesome human. We're awesome human beings
Right.
making stuff happen.
Right.
And then for it not to have, because it happens in Africa and anywhere else other than Europe, I feel like it has to be some supernatural alien, involvement that bestowed this on these primitive men to create
No
these
way we
pyramids.
could've done it.
There's no way that they line that shit up to Orion's belt. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like that again. That is narrative.
But maybe
shaping, I feel.
we're wrong in assuming that they're extraterrestrials because they do. There's a lot of lore in Humboldt from the native people about what the Bigfoot, how
Sure.
the Bigfoot interacted
Sasquatch.
with them, and the Bigfoot taught them a lot about the nature of the universe and the nature of the Earth. And that's not necessarily like an alien intrusion. That would be condescending as more as that
Terrestrial.
more it's earlier relative.
Sure. Yeah, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff. We talk about that a lot too, of like, because I think that's what I said that on a podcast before. I think people get too carried away with their confidence about what we're seeing. We're like, oh, these are aliens.
You cannot believe your eyes.
Where you're
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I mean, we've got everything from ideas about ghosts and spirits and our different ancestors that have lived, in human history, our lack of awareness of what's under the ocean. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Big
possibilities
question
out there.
mark down there.
But moving forward after that whole incident, it just made me want to be a little more careful
Yeah.
about, because you don't realize you're contributing to a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
You just think you're just living your life. I'm just a regular dude, but you don't realize like
Yeah.
all those people listening, for the people who didn't write the comments, people are just taking it in like fact. And that's something I've gotten away from. I've always listened to a lot of Joe Rogan podcasts. And in recent years, I'm slowly listening to less and less of them and realizing that, and it's because of me. I'm not even blaming him, but because of me, he'll have somebody on there because they're like me and Mike, because they're not experts, because they're just talking about whatever. You have to be super cautious about what you're hearing, and I think you have
Very.
to maintain a critical mindset.
Yeah.
And there's this thing that happens in humans when we want to believe something, or when something's really cool, or we want it to be true, where you don't even realize you're doing it. You're so biased, and you're not
Right.
being critical at all, and you're absorbing it, and then you're spouting it out to other people without it going through this filter.
Yeah, I can say I did that a lot with Donald Trump, man. Because
Right.
there was like a few like memes and stuff about how like these supposed racist comments he had made or whatever. They came
Sure,
out
sure.
to be false about him, but
Yeah.
I wanted
The
it to be
confirmation
so,
bias. You're
Yeah,
like, if it
was
hits anything in you that feels
Yeah,
good, you're
exactly.
like, I
I'm
believe
like,
that.
yeah, it's true. Oh God,
So again, we're sorry, guys.
We're sorry, our bad.
We're not doctors.
don't ever do that again.
Don't ever do
Don't
that.
ever do that again.
Yeah, I think all it made me think was just don't say things with such confidence.
Yeah.
Because unless you really have the
But
grounds
why?
for
But
confidence.
why not? I feel like it's
We should have the
good to
freedom to
have
be
that
wrong,
conversation.
too,
Yeah, you
you
can be
know?
wrong. What
That's
the
true.
fuck?
Yeah, because
I
you
was
can't-
wrong.
You
Like-
can't make
Yeah.
mistakes now. Like people,
Oh, dude, roast
So many
you.
times.
Well, you do
yeah.
get roasted.
Yeah.
And the thing with people
just-
is like, okay, you shouldn't just believe everything you hear me say.
Yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
you need to do your own research. You need to definitely look at more than one source. And I prefer to look at two conflicting sources
yes.
and
Yeah.
parse the
Nice.
truth between that,
Yeah,
Look at
and
that
I think
wisdom,
you see, you're similar
Raven.
to me and Dollar the
Jeez.
same way.
Yeah.
we look at both sides because like I'm
Look
not,
at the opposing sides
Yeah.
and you'll find
I'm
the
not-
truth is maybe somewhere in
because
between.
that's what everybody's always said about me. I'm not necessarily liberal, but I'm also not also super GOP and right. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like.
But we've
like,
both been called both.
Yeah, we've both been called
Been
both.
called a
like,
liberal, been
ridiculous
called a conservative.
and conservative, but Yeah, we're in
based
the
on-
middle, you know, like the whole guns thing, you know, like I know he likes guns, he loves guns. I don't like guns. Doesn't mean I don't care if he has guns or not, but you know, stuff like that, you know, it's just.
Yeah.
But then we do the same thing. We always look at both sides, but this particular time, like I looked too. I was like, oh, look at all this info. I was like, yeah, dollar. Did you notice it? And like we're meeting, we're just going back and forth, and then we're like, shit. When and it was funny because he actually called me on the phone. And he goes, Pierce, I got to tell you something. I was like, oh, what's wrong, dollar? Are we done with the podcast?
I think, yeah, that's funny. You did say, because I said, I got bad news.
Yeah. And so I was like, what? And then he told me about it. And I was like, no, what? And as he was talking to me, I'm like looking online. I'm like, shit.
Hey, it's all good. And again, people make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, perfect example. October 11th is my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I have good feelings about October 11th. It's also Columbus Day.
Yeah.
And for years, I thought that, discovery of the new world and, all this stuff that I was taught
That you were
I
fed.
thought that was cool.
and fed, like,
It
had
would be
all
cool,
these positive
conceptually.
things with it, right? And then come to find out, I want to say it was 8 years ago, one of my indigenous homies called me up and was like, yo, I don't like fuck Columbus. I was like, what? What are you talking about? It's my birthday, dog. Like, I get down on Columbus Day. And he was like, nah, man, like read his journal, just read his words. Read his words and it'll sum it up for you. And then I took him up on the challenge. I read Columbus's words and I was like, how the fuck are we celebrating this psycho, man?
Yeah.
Like, how were we celebrating this dude? Is there anyone else the Italians could have picked to like celebrate?
Discovered America.
Yeah.
It's
He
fucking bullshit.
discovered America.
So then, like, it just a deeper, got me in a deeper rabbit hole. But again, like, I was, it helped
Well, and I think
me
that was about
see.
that same time too. That's when everybody
It
was
was
also
around that same
realizing,
time.
you know,
Yeah,
like
was
they
oh,
got rid
shit.
of the Columbus Day for a lot of states and
Well, and
government
then
stuff,
look at what
yeah.
we're trying to do now, though. Like, we're trying to erect Confederate statues again, and like all this other
After we
bullshit.
took them down,
yeah, and not celebrate, Juneteenth or anything. And it's like, what the fuck is going on, G?
Just a constant distraction.
For real. What are you doing to us right now?
Yeah.
I
giving
know.
away $5 million citizenships. That's what we're doing.
That is fucking crazy. What is that called again? The Trump
gold card.
Gold card?
It's the gold card.
That is.
Wait, so now what if you're rich, you can
Oh yeah, so if
Immigrate.
you're a
Oh
rich,
my God, that's so
Immigrant,
blatant.
you can
yeah, if you're a
pay
rich
your
immigrant,
way.
you can pay your way.
that's been the case in European countries.
I was like,
yeah.
not that it wasn't like that already. Come on, let's be real.
Right.
Like people
Probably
coming
was.
over here,
But
you
now
know,
it's overtly.
yeah, now it's overtly.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so
All
and
these things
it
that-
has his face on it,
He's like,
obviously, and it's the gold card, and he was like showing it off, and he was like, you're like, well, what is who has this? And it was so funny because when he like on the thing I watched, he was like, who has this card right now? I have this card right now. I'm like, you're a fucking
God,
citizen.
dude. Yeah, exactly.
Like you're like, why do you have
Yeah.
this card, dummy? Like,
Are we at like the pinnacle of capitalism?
oh yeah,
Yes, this is
Like, is
No,
this
no,
it?
no,
This is
in
where
fact,
it
we-
is.
In fact,
we're
we're
at
on the
the top and
decline.
we're getting
We're actually
ready to fall
declining
over the hump
already.
now.
Yeah,
the
we're-
pinnacle was like in the fucking 80s.
no,
like,
we're selling ourselves out.
Had to be
That's what we're
fucking
doing.
straight.
Literally
Hold us
selling
out,
ourselves out.
Dude's talking about a third term.
Come on now. Again,
It's
like,
funny because it's exactly what they said they were going to do. And everyone was like, no, they're not
Yeah,
really going to do
2025
it.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they really said they were trying
That's
to do
what's
that.
so funny about this whole thing is that he's doing exactly everything.
doing
He's
what
like,
he's
"No,
supposed
And
to do.
everybody on
Yeah.
the right, because I listened to the right, type of conspiracy world, they
Yeah.
were like, the Project 2025, that's not really, he's really
Yeah.
not about that. And that's the one thing that the
exactly-
liberal
that's
side
the
was correct about. Yeah.
That's the blueprint
Yeah.
of his presidency right now. Yo, if he runs, man, God, I would pray that Obama would run against him or something.
Yeah, you're gonna open it up.
If
Let's
he was-
bring
yeah,
Obama
if you're gonna
back.
open him up, you might as well.
Might as
but
well.
but again, like
I pray
it,
we look away from the spectacle.
it comes down to us. It comes down to us. At the end of the day, are we going to continue to, follow this shit, or are we going to do something about it? And, there's one thing, and again, I have to credit Obama since, he's on the forefront of my mind right now, is in the discussion that he had with folks recently. It's like, you say that you're for, liberty or you're for justice, but saying it and then actually doing it is two totally different things, because in the doing you're going to sacrifice. You're going to put yourself at risk. You know what I mean? You might sacrifice something or lose something in the pursuit of this liberty and this justice that you want. Now, some of us understand that as far as like, raising our hand and, fighting for our nation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For an example, but like you gotta put your money where your mouth is. You know what I mean? Your actions are gonna dictate what happens. So if we continue to, oh God, did you see what happened? I'm like, I don't give a fuck what he just said. It's like it's gonna be up to us to make sure we correct that or put up those barriers. And we can't just let it all be this battle between the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch. Like we also have a part to play in it too.
Yeah. That's such a key thing to understand. I think we all act and feel like we're just not connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is just the fate that's going to be,
handed
put
down
on
to
us
us.
or
It's like,
whatever.
no, dude, we don't have to live that way.
The citizenship are the biggest group of political players by millions.
Yeah,
We
that's
outnumber
what
them by millions, by hundreds of millions.
That's what the beginning says, right? For the people,
It
by
does.
other people.
It does. It does say that. So I would, to your listeners, man, get involved, baby.
Yeah.
Get involved. I think it's like, everybody's so disconnected because of, I feel like the devices that we use to communicate with each other. It's like you're a bystander while all this madness is happening.
Well, I think the other thing too that happens a lot is, people like you that come on, right, and say, "Hey, come and be a part of this. We're doing great things. We got a lot of people helping out with us." But then there's that person that's like watching that. Is like, "Oh, that's cool. That would be cool to help them out." But it seems like they got enough people doing this
Don't
already.
be satisfied by just being a viewer. Yeah.
And- But that's what happens too, right?
Yeah.
That people are like, "Oh, but it seems like they got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of resources, so I'll like that." And that's as much as you're going to get out of that person, right? Because they're like, I'm behind this idea, but it seems like there's enough happening already that I really, really don't need to go. By me liking this is cool enough.
Maybe change the idea of you. Maybe change the concept from us needing your help to you being able to get a lot more from it if you come do something in person.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting anything from liking it, nor are we,
Yeah, man. It's just like talking about the moon and actually being on the moon. It's like two totally different things, man. Like come and experience this thing, man, and feel that connection. Like it's so crazy about technology because it's this double-edged sword. It connects us, but yet it separates us,
Oh yeah.
And not only does it separate us, it sucks the life out of us.
It
dude.
is literally
Not
draining
only,
us.
you're just talking about the psychological health of being on it all the time, but
Yeah.
it's literally your time. Like, what could you be doing with that time that you're staring at a phone?
and it's your
writing a symphony.
mental space, like the way that it occupies your mental space. They say your phone is affecting you. It affects your attention whether it's in the room with you or not. Just thinking about it,
Yeah.
whether you're looking at it or not.
Where's that quote from? Somebody who had said that. It was like, you have to be very careful. I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh, that Buddhist monk, was saying how careful you have to be about what you take in.
Yeah.
It's the same with your food, same with what you
I think
take
that's a
into your
great
body.
first step. Just think about your consumption, like that.
Yeah. Like, what are you taking in, and how is it affecting you? What in an ideal world, what would you want to take in if you're going to be on there looking at things? And how many of us are those two things are so far apart with what you would ideally in a world where you're your best self, if you were even on social media, what would you be doing with it? What would you be looking at versus how does it function in my day-to-day life?
Yeah. Because you are the steward of your own reality. Basically, the whole concept of the world exists inside of you, So you're the steward of your body, your mind, your planet,
like the way
your
you put
community,
Yeah, 100%.
Man, well, I can
Yeah.
tell you, I'd be time traveling with music. When you said that, I was like, that is so, true.
Right? Isn't that
And
wild?
So true.
What came to mind to me was I was in Philly and I heard Rihanna sing Umbrella for the first time.
Uh-huh.
And like every time I hear Umbrella, it takes me back
Transports you.
to
Yeah.
Philly on my
is
way
like that.
on my first deployment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
man.
Yeah. And I'm like, damn, like every time I hear Umbrella, like I'm like, damn.
I love that about
Back
music.
then.
You know what me and my wife, when I was on spring break, we had a day where we didn't have anything planned. We were trying to decide what we were going to do. And we found ourselves, for whatever reason, I had, I can't remember which one. There was one of her hits. It was a Whitney Houston song, which is stuck in my head. And so then I was like, let's just put it on, get it out of my head. We put it on, bro. Like we both sat down. I was tearing up. I was like, not only just the memories flooding back, but the awe of her artistic ability.
Yeah, she was a beast.
I mean, I was like, who is like this now? Like,
I've been thinking about that every day. The artistry is incomparable. Incomparable.
Yeah.
I think his age, it's a little age there too. I think
Those kids, they don't
well,
know
yeah,
their
exactly.
music. They
That's-
don't know their music.
that's what I turned into. I turned into that, you know what I mean?
But who now is like Donna Summer? Who now is like Whitney
Yeah.
Houston?
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
that's what we also discussed on our podcast prior too, because right, like now we're in the digital age where you don't actually need a drummer, right? You have a drum kit, you can just use the drumming
Yeah,
and
you
stuff
can
like
pad
that,
it
right?
up.
And when we had one of our other DJs on, one of my really good friends, DJ Matt Cassidy, he was talking about like when you're mixing like vinyls, right? And you're trying to mix an old school vinyl with some new music, right?
Yeah,
Doing a
that shit's
mashup.
hard as fuck.
He goes, because it's hard because he goes at, the old vinyls
live
had
recordings.
had humans
Human
doing the
pacing,
beats.
yeah.
Human pacings where it was like an automatic beat now you can get with digital music.
Yeah.
And so he goes, trying to slow up tempos, trying to make everything match up and everything.
that makes a lot of sense when you think about how the rap is so much faster now and how
Yeah.
the tread of the beat is so fast now. It's like, it's not a human being.
Yeah.
True that.
Yeah, when there's something about it, we've got to
Damn
pick
kids.
it up. I feel like we got to pick it
Damn
up
kids.
subconsciously. Like when I hear a song, I can tell if it was recorded to a click track or not. Because if you've got, even in that
Yeah.
case where you've got even if it's not fake drums, it's a real drummer in that
Yeah.
case, you can still hear it when it's just so overly perfect that to me it loses something. But if you listen back to some of those classic rock songs from the 70s,
Yeah,
they got
man.
17 different tempos in the same song. Like they'll
Insane.
slow it down,
Yeah.
pick it back up. And what was amazing was about it is like how they used to record. They'd have the whole band there,
Yep.
literally
In the studio.
performing it live.
Yep.
And it's that cohesion. It's that
You can
them-
actually hear that chemistry between
Yes.
people. You can actually feel the warmth of people being physically together.
absolutely.
You know what I went down a rabbit hole with since we're talking about drums?
Yeah.
There's this YouTube channel. I forget what it's called. I'll have to look it up. But what they do is they get drummers and they ask them if they know a particular song. And they're like, I've never heard that song before, ever. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to play the track without the drums in it. And we want you to drum what you think the rendition of this would be.
Okay.
And some of these people like get wild with it, Dollar. Like they're almost to the spot where it's like perfect.
Oh yeah.
They use what's his name from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
And
the guy looks like Will Ferrell.
yeah,
right?
looks like Will Ferrell. They also use this other game like Samus 66 or something. He's like this big time like metal head like drummer.
Is he the guy with the beard?
Yes, the long
I know
beard,
who
long
you're talking
hair.
about.
Yeah.
He does all those crazy things with
yeah,
his sticks and
thimbles
stuff.
and shit everywhere.
Yeah,
and like
he's a
that.
phenomenal
Yeah,
drummer.
and so, but like they were doing that stuff, and he was like, there was this one guy. He was like he was listening to the music. He goes, I think this is written at 128. He goes, is this at 128? He goes, I think it's at 128. And he's going by it, and when he heard the original part, he goes, it is 128. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, but that sounds fucking
Yeah, that's the
amazing.
beats per minute.
Yeah,
That's
that he heard.
crazy.
And so, but yeah, but they're just going and like metal and like they're differentiating the difference between like a metal, drummer versus like a jazz drummer.
Yeah.
Right. And just like the double basses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dollar, I'm amazed by like how fucking drummers just work. Like double basses.
crazy.
And they're like their
It
feet
actually
are going at the same
Yeah,
time. They're just
I
like,
couldn't do
I'm like, oh my God, that is a lot of shit happening right now.
I know. I know.
Yeah, I wonder what their neuron like.
Right?
Yeah, right. The way
pathways
their
are
brain
looking
is
like
lighting
because
up while they're
like,
doing it.
going
Yeah.
all over the place and trying to keep to a beat.
I'm sure there's
That's
some
just
studies
crazy.
out there regarding like music and musicians and how it affects your brain. Yeah, that's crazy. That reminds me of the perfect pitch thing we talked about too.
Yep.
There's people who can just like
the
name a
bond.
pitch or
Totally.
sing. You like sing a C sharp and they just hit
Yeah.
it. We always joke that on one day I'm going to do it on the show and just accidentally hit the right note.
Yep.
Somebody's going to write in like, you actually did
You did it, Dollar.
Because music, that's that conversation we were having is how arbitrary it is where we set notes.
Yeah.
You know, like you could say this is an A, but it's just a measure of
variation of A, yeah.
of hertz. It's a it's a
Different, yeah.
vibration, and so where we've decided the key is just that's just what it is, and that's what everyone uses in the West, and it's different in different parts of the world.
Right.
Even scales are different because if you actually think about it, we think of notes as like these vibrations that are. Oh, that's an A, that's a B, that's a C, that's a D, but it's a spectrum.
Right.
It's just you can slow the vibrations down or speed them up infinite possibilities of how detailed you could do that. And so it's always weird to me, like, how did these things get landed on? Like, how did we decide this is where we're going to do it, and this is what an A is? This is a foul note in the scale, but this is a good one.
I guess we've evolved to know what sounds good depending on where we're from and
Yeah,
region and culture and
we didn't have cell
Environment.
phones back then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
we had pristine
Had some
minds
time. Had some time put in.
and tons of time.
Like I even like to know that you had someone that would stare at the stars and understand that, like, well, that particular star comes like every
once in a
time.
while. Yeah.
This year, why
The
is
fact
that?
they tracked it for
Yeah.
like 30,000 fucking years.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Why is
Listen
that
here.
idea?
Listen,
Before we
son.
had pens and paper.
Listen, son. I'm giving you this now.
Give you this knowledge.
You have to let your son know as well.
Yeah.
Uranus comes around only.
And see, and that's one of the things that's cited all the time too by this idea that we were intervened, that our genes were intervened with, by aliens or whatever, is because think of how connected they were to the night sky. I was like, because that was a big
Yeah.
part of their reality. It's
Exactly.
not for
Because
us
if there's
anymore.
no other lights,
there
there's
ain't
no
nothing else out there.
lights.
What are you
That's all
gonna
can
look at?
see, and it's dark.
Looking up
Yeah.
at it.
Absolutely.
It's the only guidance
Staring up,
system you
oh,
have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but it's so funny that you talk about, like, someone intervening in our development, and in reality, like, it wasn't until we started cooking food that the calorie intake into our bodies, like the fats and
Yeah,
stuff,
the
like
change, yeah.
changed our fucking brain
changed the-
structure.
Yeah, our brains
man.
grew.
Change the
Yeah.
composition of the
Some
food.
fucking
Yeah.
mushrooms. I
Yeah.
don't know who it was. Some
Well, that's actually one of Graham Hancock's theories, is the stoned ape theory.
oh,
Yeah.
really? The stone.
It's the idea that because I studied anthropology for a while, and there's this weird period in human history where we clearly went from tree dwelling to ground dwelling, and people and walking upright instead of on all fours. And so it was like this. There's this big mystery about, like, it happens so rapidly, and I think that's where a lot of that stuff comes from, of alien
yeah.
intervention and all this. But there's this stoned ape theory, is that at that time they think that there would have been lots of psilocybin mushrooms growing all over the place, and that it was part of what started changing our evolution, as we started
Eating these psychedelic-
eating them on a regular
Did
basis.
you ever harvest them in Humboldt?
I
go pick
didn't.
'em?
No,
Yeah,
personally,
okay.
just weed.
Yeah, you can go pick them on the beach.
Oh,
No one's
yeah.
aware, but
Yeah.
No, man. Like, I did have this kick over the summer of rocking with, like, lion's mane and stuff to help with, like, cognitive
Oh, yeah.
functions. And
There's
stuff
some
like that.
powerful mushrooms
So
out
good.
there.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it tastes.
I'm a huge
horrible,
believer.
but it
Oh,
works.
yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of forms of it, right? There's pill version. There's
There's
coffee
liquid,
now.
yeah.
There's coffee now. And there's
Yeah, I have a bunch
But
of them.
yeah,
actually.
like I think that the interaction between early humans or pre-humans and the natural environment is what caused that, whether it be through herbs,
Oh yeah.
observation,
Yep.
food, technology,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm-
Fire
I'm
was definitely a
still
massive
yeah, fire.
advent, yeah.
Icarus, thank you.
yeah.
I think, like, there has to be what I'm curious about, though, really, is that on all the animals on our planet, like, how did we become the most dominant one?
Because we're
Yeah.
the most adaptable.
Them
These
thumbs-
right here.
thumbs
Why do you
did?
These
suppose we're the
thumbs.
most adaptable? Is that just random chance?
I think that we're like, no, I don't think that's random chance, but I think that that's part of the human design, is that we don't have fur or claws. We have big brains and we have social structures.
Yeah.
And so we can go anywhere in the world and dominate the environment through our minds,
And I think the social structure is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about that idea. Maybe not for you two, but they always say a solitary human in the wild is a dead human.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we need each other.
No,
you know?
No, I
And
mean,
it would be-
ultimately,
and
at
it
the
would
end of
be,
the day,
yeah.
we do
Yeah.
need each other.
Unless you're Rambo.
basically.
Unless you're Rambo.
But we all know how that worked out for Rambo. He's fucking traumatized.
Yeah, exactly.
He had to go back home. See?
Yeah.
He had to come out of the
Wasn't
jungles
good.
eventually. Shit.
Yeah.
But
Because I think that that's what our purpose is like to be an evolving kind of aspect of consciousness,
Yeah.
And so,
ooh, what is the next stage, though? What is the next stage?
Is unlocking that back part. We've talked about that too. Where like the what they call it, the non-speaking
Oh,
people with autism.
Yeah, there's a really cool podcast. You asked us about podcasts. One you should check out. It's the Telepathy Journals, I think it's called.
I kind of heard about this. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
It-
it's trippy.
Journal.
fascinating.
Put that in my notes.
Yeah, it's like individuals, most of which have some form of autism and are typically non-speaking, but they they're telepathic. Like they can read people's minds. They have like these groups of them that they go to this place. They call it the hill, and there's multiple hills.
And it's like in their minds.
It's
a real
in their
place,
minds,
yeah.
and they meet people. There's like people who do talks and stuff. Like they take in lectures, and I mean it is wild. So if you haven't checked that out, and the listeners too, check that podcast out. The telepathy journals. It's freaking fascinating.
That's crazy.
But that's what, like, that's what we were saying too, with drugs, it does open up different parts of your brain. It does open up the different things, and as we've gotten evolved, we've kind of shut off those things because we don't need that stuff. And maybe that's happening with technology, right? Now that we're getting these all this technological advances, now maybe our brains are kind of shutting down other parts that we don't need.
Or rewiring it for other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like with technology, and this is what's kind of scary to me, is nanotech and how like we can literally like rebuild structures with tiny machines. So I mean, maybe there will be a day that will be nonverbal because
I think we were nonverbal first, right?
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
grunts,
I mean, that's my belief.
grunts and hand gestures, I guess.
My belief is that because like when you have to use telepathy when you're in a natural environment. Think about it, if you're sleeping out in the dark, like you're not talking, you're not trying to attract predators, right? People had to communicate without words or very, very, very subtly or energetically, and it's like there's a feeling when you're in the woods, you can feel a new presence enter. You can feel everything go quiet. That's how you know if it's safe or not, because it's quiet. That's dangerous. Yeah.
I'm kind of with you, Pierre. Like I think that's a lot of that stuff is atrophying in us because I think when you hear that podcast and you realize it, you're like, I think our brains are so adaptable too. Like, like if you took away my ability to see, my ability to hear, like what would happen?
Your other senses would just explode.
Heighten,
Exactly.
Like Daredevil.
You'd be floating
You're
around
like Daredevil.
You'd be floating.
Yeah, but I mean, stuff like that is so fascinating to me, and I think there's really something to what you're saying too. That it's like a natural part of how we evolved and that's our connection to each other. Is we think of it now as just our verbal communication or our written communication to each other or whatever, but there's way more than that. And I think there is some science out there, I would assume, that's showing some of this stuff where you can pick up on things.
It's almost like the science is catching up with the known knowns that have been forgotten.
Yeah.
Or have been taken, rather. Because even when you're talking about the people becoming nonverbal, it's like, we're at this point of evolution where we've almost taken verbal communication as far as it can go while failing to be able to communicate with these types of like energetic and nonverbal communications that people and animals have always used. I mean, why do animals know when to trust you? And how do you know when you meet somebody that you can trust them? It's not verbal,
And you see it with animals too, like with natural disasters and things. A lot of times, domesticated animals and even animals in the wild will start having reactions before.
And you observe them.
Yeah.
Before the weather forecast, you see all the animals.
Oh, like a herd of deer just
evacuate.
dip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how they know
the crows
tsunamis are
are
coming.
leaving.
Because all the animals leave. Yeah.
You're
They don't
like,
need a shitty, inaccurate
No.
weather forecast
Yeah,
like we do.
exactly.
Not gonna lie, I do look at my dog sometimes and go like this, just like stare. Like, you didn't hear me?
Do you ever do like the forehead touch?
No, I just
Communication?
look at Duchess and I'm like, you hear me?
Yeah, they
You hear
can.
me?
They definitely can. Yeah.
Feel me? Yeah. They feel me.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot more to the world than meets the eye.
is,
and I
man.
think there's a lot of forgotten
Like you're
things.
talking about with music, I think the language of the universe that functions on is frequency.
Oh yeah.
So
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what comes out of our tubes is different frequencies.
that's what makes the whole thing that we think is reality: light, sound, physical.
Man, which in mine, mental health, super important.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Don't if you need help, get that help, baby.
Yes.
However shape, form, or fashion, man, like in whatever profession. I think it's extremely important for us, and I feel there's such a disconnect there too, man. Like with just mental health in America, period. It's just like we've put that such on a back burner, it's kind of like with food, man. These are like essential things, okay, for longevity, to enjoy your life.
Yeah.
And, like get those friends, man. If you ain't got those friends, come to those damn dinners, man.
Yeah, and we're doing a farmer's market. What is it, Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and Sunday, we're
There you
doing
go.
farmers markets at Green Spaces.
Okay.
What are the dates on that?
I'll
I think we'll have to update.
ooh, God,
we'll have to
I don't
update
know.
because we got to know when we can harvest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really depends on the harvest. So,
For sure.
but I mean, we're going to be creating all these events, and mental health is going to be one of those things, things that we'll be addressing, as well as career pathways for folks. So, like, we're really trying to create gateways for folks to get into food system, food literacy, health, mental health.
Yeah.
And then just building community, man. Like I wanna unplug people.
And
You
food
know what I mean?
sovereignty is how we do that. Yeah,
Exactly.
It's the keystone for that.
Like I want you to touch grass. Well, maybe not touch grass, but I want you to touch.
Sure,
I want
start
to
by
touch what
touching
we're
grass.
growing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
you to touch the dirt. I want you to get the microbes and take them home with you, and friendship, hopefully, and a sense of community. Because we're so easily disconnected, even though we're connected with tech, we're extremely disconnected. And COVID, I feel, was definitely one of those things that pushed us further apart into these echo chambers. So,
And where they're coming from, I don't know, but there's all kinds of forces working against us.
Coming from everywhere.
Yeah, coming from
It's
everywhere.
unilateral. Yeah.
it is.
Go on Twitter and stuff, you see all these negative comments, and it's like 80% of them are programs or algorithms or bots or whatever. they are.
AI. God, see, it's already Terminator's already at work.
Yeah.
He doesn't even
Skynet
need.
is here.
He's like,
No,
I don't
there's
even
literally
need a metal
and
body.
it's to create a negative bias about each other. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep us separated.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on deck, man.
Because that's the thing. Interpersonal relating, it goes so much better than a comment section. I mean, you can't look at a comment section doesn't have a negative.
People don't
you know?
behave the same way.
People
on
don't
no.
behave that way.
Oh no, yeah, that's why you
in
say
person.
that's why you get keyboard warriors, right?
Yeah,
That's what
right,
it says,
exactly.
you know,
Ooh,
'cause
those are the
someone,
best. They're all
someone that
blue.
comes in front of you directly, right?
They're like,
That same person's like, oh, I didn't mean, I didn't mean
exactly.
that.
That's what I was saying. Like 90% of the time when
Yeah.
we have like a negative comment,
They don't have a picture. They don't have a
You go to their
Oh,
profile, there's
They're
no-
probably not even a real person.
They're trolling.
Probably not.
Maybe
you know?
AI.
They're probably an
could be.
algorithm.
Can't tell
You know?
now.
Because how are you on TikTok with one friend? You're on TikTok with one friend, no posts,
Yeah.
just walking around spewing negativity,
AI, baby.
hating on
AI.
people.
I was going to
Making
comment on what you guys do and what you're about too. I think another thing that's super important about the growing of your own food and learning how to not necessarily master that, but just learning it in general. Like we're in a country again. We're in a big country, and we're fortunate to be where we're at with the availabilities of food and conveniences and stuff like that. But I think learning also is huge because we are over consumers of things.
Yeah.
We overeat. There's everybody that's overindulges on something and this and that. And when you're growing it yourself, and there's a limited supply of things, you don't have that luxury of over consuming.
No, you don't.
Exactly.
You're growing what you're growing to nourish your body for that moment. And I think people
It makes
need
you
to
really
realize that
grateful
too.
for what you grow, and you'll
Exactly.
fucking eat it. Yeah.
And so I think that's another big thing too, because we live in an era where it is instant gratification.
And I think that's where
overindulgence.
that negative culture comes from, is because when we live in a society where our only freedom
We'll never have enough.
and our only freedom is about what product we buy. So it's like everybody's a critic. Our only freedom is to be a critic in what you choose to consume, and so everybody is critical about everything.
Yeah.
When you produce things, you have a lot less desire to be critical because you're just like, damn, I did it.
Yeah.
Thank God,
That's that madman programming, man. Like this whole commercialized industrial deal.
It's the manufactured scarcity. It causes
It is, man. Like we
distress,
have plenty.
in every single way. Competitiveness, aggression, discontent. Yeah.
Well, I really want competitiveness into like saving our environment, man. Like here we are. We know it's like we're that boiling frog, man, in the pot right now. Like everybody's jokes about, our ice caps melting. Well, that shit's not something to joke about. You know what I mean? Like we're beyond that point right now. I think we get hotter every year. Drier every year.
Glaciers
it's harder
are also
to
melting like crazy.
grow food every year, especially in mass, like we've been doing. And not like, and again, with us being so disconnected from our food web, we're not really, we undervalue like our environment, man, and like our connection and position within it. We got to change the way we do business, man, and
we have to scale down
drastically. And maybe there'll be a couple hits here and there, which is fine, because I would rather be here on a planet that my sons can enjoy, and giraffes will still be here, and bees. Like that, the world is changing, man. And I think for us as human beings, or at least just as people, from what I can say from my own anecdotal deal, is that we wait until it's damn near like to the point where it can't be reversed.
We're reactionary.
Extremely. And
Yeah.
and it's so wise to be preventative in anything you do, whether it be preventative health stuff, financial stuff, and especially environmental. It's like, if we're in this capitalistic mindset, how the fuck are you going to make money if there ain't no planet? You know what I mean? If we're not able to be
I
on
often
the
wonder that
surface
the
of the
guys
fucking
making,
Right.
the people
Well,
making all this
it's
money.
like,
Like,
what's the point of having all the money if there's no life?
Yeah,
what's
what
the
the fuck?
end game?
Yeah.
What is
Well,
the
it's
end
the
game?
instant gratification, right? It's the I need it now.
Which is
I need it now.
crazy.
I don't care about later. I
I
need
think
it
it's
now.
addiction to power.
That
I mean,
too.
they're the people who have all the money have all the power over the whole every living entity on Earth. You know,
Yeah, well, they have their say in everything, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about
they have
like,
massive gravity.
like you're talking about like the Koch brothers, right? Back in the day, how they were able to push like so many political narratives because
Right.
they had money backing them, right? To push things out.
Oh,
so-
Wisconsin kind of changed that narrative, though.
yeah.
You know what I mean? A little bit.
That was pretty
Yeah.
dope. I was so like that whole thing. Wait, were you talking about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
judge thing?
Yeah, it was yes.
Yeah, the fact that you can dump $25 million and still like you can't just change everything and hit a switch with money.
Yeah.
That was so satisfying.
Which is true, man. I feel especially in our country, like oligarchy ain't got no place here, man. And it's disguised itself as brands. So whether it be Google, Nike, whatever, or Facebook or whatever, all these things, it's still the same thing, man. Like we are not ruled by kings and princes as we rule
Plutocracy,
ourselves.
or they call it kleptocracy.
Yeah. And I mean, right now we have a national leader that thinks that, ruling beyond his rule, right? Because he's trying to position himself and his, close allies in positions where they can control narratives, man, and control where this country goes. And that's not how our founding fathers had this thing. So like even recently, I could think they're going to, the Senate or Congress is trying to come together to have a, constitutional redrafting or something like that, where they're going to try to redraft the Constitution. Like, why are they even touching that?
Now's
shit,
not the
man?
time.
Like,
Read the
why are
room,
you-
guys.
Yeah.
Let's read the room. Let's read this room.
So I mean, like, it's again, it comes down to us, man. Like, what are we going to continue to let slide, man? You know what I mean? We give value to money. We give value to Jordans, to Fila and the grants. We gave them that power, like, and we have to realize that if somebody came up to me and gave me $100 or whatever, and I was like, you know what, fuck that. It ain't about the money. It's about the fucking principle, man. Like, I'm not gonna fucking sell myself out for this shit, and I'm not interested in
decide what
killing
our
my
energy
planet.
is worth. Like your human capital, all your life energy, is that really worth money?
Yeah, man. And I think there's more of us that are more in tune with that than into this whole I'll sell myself out to the highest bidder type shit. Like, I think we're at that point. And for those that are listening that may be silent, like, don't be silent, man. Like,
Yep.
you got to get that courage, baby. There's a reason why it's called courage. You got to step up. It's that time for bravery. And maybe you're alone at that point when you do that. But I mean, fucking say something, dude.
And that is the awakening that I see happening with everybody. Even just the investment in health, the uptick of investment in health that you see with everybody, the health influencers. It's like, that's a great starting point. It's just, invest in your life force. Like,
That's another thing too, though, is that like on social media, that stuff is so saturated with
right,
not
it's
only
still
BS, but just,
commercialized.
yeah, it's commercialized, and it's just like, and also what are the what are we trying to accomplish here, right? The health,
Right.
how we view health. If you ask, what's your vision of health? It's like a jacked dude with his shirt off, or a girl with a big butt, or like
Right.
this is some idea that we have. You know what I'm saying?
It's
Yeah,
again a
you're right.
commodified body. You're like you have to buy all the products to get the body. Like,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
It's like because that's celebrity culture and shit. But
When all you had to do was grow your own food.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
the
No,
point
maybe work
is
out a little
like
bit.
thinking that your mental health and your physical health do matter, and that is kind of the foundation for your whole enjoyment of existence. You know, and how far you can go.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I mean, we're sick, dude. Like we're sick.
As a society.
Yes, man. We're very sick, and I feel like it's kind of like what James Baldwin had said, man. That, we keep moving forward for very few folks that are like that. Love pushes that needle. You know what I mean? But there's just very few of us doing it, and it could easily be switched around. You know what I mean? Easily be switched around. So for those folks that are like, well, it seems like you got enough. So here I'm gonna give you a little like. Nah, Brody, like
You need to activate.
you gotta activate,
Yeah.
man. Like it ain't enough, because if it was enough, we wouldn't be here talking about this. You know what I mean? If it was enough, you would know about your food web and be a part of that and know how to grow your food and what's healthy to take part of. That's when you know that you're there. You know what I mean? When we're there, but until then, like get activated.
when we're not just
dude.
stressed about what's happening in the greater politic, because we actually have the ability to govern our lives so much that we're in control. We're free,
Yeah.
Exactly, freedom. Ooh,
And
freedom.
It's been a great podcast.
it's been a great podcast. So I don't know something's going on with our audio, so we're not hearing the music in our ears right now. But that is the end of the show. But thank you both for being here. You'll
Yeah.
have to come
you.
back. This is a fascinating conversation. This is one of my favorite conversations we've had.
But definitely tell us what everybody can do to help, and everybody.
Oh
can
man!
do
Well,
support.
first off, you can visit Big Green Dow's website. It's an easy Google for that. Also, you can reach out to Outer Haven, 2019.org. Or you can visit for Mo Better Green. She has a Facebook page and an Instagram page that you can get in contact. But I'll be posting all of the dinners all throughout that. You can also look me up on LinkedIn. I'll also have dates on that as well. Lacey McDonald, super easy to see.
And then the farmers market.
And if you want to
too.
grow
Yeah,
something
farmers
at
markets
home,
and
yeah, we're
everything.
gonna have farmers market. But if you want to grow something at home, you can come down to Metro Caring, and we can provide seeds and soil and
there you go.
containers.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
So you can get started.
I love that. Thank you very much, Staff Sergeant Lacey McDonald and Raven. I don't know if you want a last name on the show. The one and only
Yeah.
Raven.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's been a great podcast. And Dollar, with that, it is a wrap.
Cheers.